Hey everybody, welcome to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM. Super glad that you've joined us today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today in the Zoom booth with me, I have Erin Lawson. Erin is from Elemental Intuitive, and she's got a lot to share with us. Welcome to the program, Erin. So delighted that you're here. How are you?
I'm great, Kathy. Thank you so much for having me. This is just a real privilege.
It's a privilege for us too. We always like to share with our community interesting and wonderful things that people can partake in to have better lives. So tell us a little bit about your organization.
Well, so I am my organization.
And so but what you do.
So I have been doing intuitive readings for 25 years. And so I use the tarot. But it's very much about getting to the heart of what's going on for people, getting to the issues. And I really believe in giving them tools. And I really believe that everyone has amazing intuition. It's just learning how to trust it. So that's kind of what I feel like my mission is to help everybody else find their own light and to do it as gracefully as possible. And then I'm also a practicing witch. And so I like to, I have taught classes. I have our own little mini coven. We call ourselves suburban witches. So really it's just like kitchen magic and, sitting around the table and, basically doing blessings for people. It's fairly light, but it's learning to live in rhythm with our environment too. So that's a little bit of what I am.
That's really interesting. I've never heard of a kitchen witch. The idea of a kitchen witch is really interesting to me. Can we explore that a little bit more?
Absolutely. So I call myself a kitchen witch because I'm a wife and a mother of 3. And even before I got into doing readings full time, I did daycare so I could, be at home with my kids. And so most of the place I had time for, my magic was in the kitchen. So it was cooking, it was making teas, it was making even just like herbal medicines and stuff. So now I find that the brunt of, say, the magic work I do is in the kitchen.
Yeah. When I think about magic, I guess there's a connotation that goes with magic. People are talking about spells and, a lot of the dark side of things, but in actual fact, that isn't the case. Could you sort of explore with us a little bit about what you mean by, performing spells or yeah.
A spell is simply an intention. The spell is actually a prayer. Now, and don't get me wrong, there are people out there that are certainly doing not great spells, and so to me, I guess if we had to classify it, we only use white magic or sympathetic magic. It's to help clear negativity. It's for protection. So to me, one of my favorite spells is literally just planting a seed. I think that's the most powerful thing you can do. The one most powerful spells you can do is writing down a wish or a prayer. Because it's just, spells they're a ritual and they're to kind of boost our psyche. So if you do something that feels like it's going to work, if you're adding magic and intention, you're more likely to believe it's going to work. But that's what it comes down to, is your belief system. So, but don't get me wrong. I spent the morning decorating my office and putting stuff on my altar because today is the fall equinox. It's Mabon. And so, you put apples out, you do things that kind of go back to what they did a long time ago when people lived more in tune with the natural rhythms of life. Yeah. And that just makes me feel connected.
Now, is this a kind of a Celtic ritual?
Yeah.
Putting the apples and things out?
Yeah, I follow more of a Celtic belief system, actually. And I thought growing up, I was sure I was Irish for years until my mom went, "No, you're German and Swedish." Broke my poor little 8-year-old heart. Because I was like, I really identified with the Celts, with the Scottish and the Irish and even Great Britain. But so more of what I've followed and what I've studied is definitely the Celtic, sort of folklore. And I call myself an eclectic witch because I don't mind taking from everywhere. I don't mind, I've got some Buddhist stuff, First Nations, and I don't want to appropriate, but there's certain things like I definitely use smudge, and I try to always honor and recognize where that came from and where that belief came from.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah,
And I think
I'm a crow.
a lot of it is about intention. It's where do you place your attention, and wherever it is that you place it, so that the growth of whatever it is that you're thinking of or wanting to work towards. And for myself, I'm an eclectic person, and I really appreciate the word of the tarot. I find that not so much because I like going to tarot cards and all of that stuff, and I want to know what the future is, but I think that the cards will often give us some opportunity for a warning, for a planning, for an eye-opening opportunity when you might not have otherwise seen it. Like, I think that when I listen to the cards, I know that for myself, there's a little bit of guidance, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that comes from so many places, doesn't it?
Oh, it really does. And
Yeah.
when I started reading tarot cards, I actually hadn't planned on reading tarot cards. I was studying witchcraft, and I got a book on the tarot sort of by accident. And I was like, oh, I don't want to read the tarot, but I read it and I knew it. I was remembering something from probably another life. So to me, tarot gives me the instant connection to spirit and to the information, especially for my clients. So they're just, each card is a window into what's going on for them. And I mean, I've studied it, and I've studied the sort of the arcane wisdom of it for sure. But I also, for me, it's that instant kind of connection to, okay, here's what's going on, here's the story. And that's kind of how I use them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think that that's interesting, because everyone does things differently, of course, but I love how you say that you're using your intuition. It's the intuition that is sort of the bridge for sharing your thoughts with the people that you're working with.
Yes.
Do you find that most people are resistant to hearing about witchcraft or hearing about tarot or metaphysics? Like, what do you think the community feels about that, and how do you deal with it?
I don't see a lot of resistance now. I did at the beginning, even within my own family when I started, I guess I started, I don't know, 25 years ago. And so then there was a lot of resistance. There was resistance in my neighbors who thought they were Jehovah's Witnesses, and they were lovely, lovely people, but they really were worried about my soul, and they wanted to come and do prayer studies because they thought that, divination is in league with the devil. And so I was polite, and I studied with them a little bit, mostly just so I understood what I was saying no to.
Yes.
And so, and people did used to have resistance, and definitely to witchcraft too. I was very careful, even just saying what I did, because there was a really negative connotation and people would be frightened. But over the years, I've sort of been known as the good witch. Like, that's kind of, Glinda the good witch, or just that kind of thing. So, and again, I know I had past lives and was burned as a witch, whether I was a witch or not. We carry that trauma with us too.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
But I've also learned that if we live in fear and defensiveness, we're going to attract reasons to be fearful and defensive. So I really had to work hard at neutralizing that. Yeah. And I'm not out there to preach, and I'm not out there to change anybody else's opinion. So what I find is most people who come to me for a reading, they're not in resistance, because I kind of made an agreement with spirit. I'm kind of like, please just send me people who want to be here. Like, I had the lessons of having to do readings for people who were resistant or who wanted me to prove myself.
Yes.
And I'm too old and too tired for that. I'm just over that. And so, and you'll always have challenges, because that's part of being alive.
Absolutely.
But more and more, I'm finding that the people come in just truly want some answers, or they want some guidance. And they're not even like looking, what's my future about? Most readings aren't even about that anymore. It's more, this is what's going on. This is the energy. What can I do with it? And that's where I'm happy to help with that. Yeah.
And I can see where that is much more realistic for the expectation of the participant, right? Is that they're coming to you, they're already noting that they're looking for some answers, and they're not
Yeah.
necessarily looking for anyone to fix something, but they just kind of want to know where they are, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
I love that, because I feel like I don't want to create dependency in people. I
Oh
mean,
no.
it's lovely to have repeat clients, don't get me wrong, and I love my clients, but I don't want people to feel like they need me. I want them to know, I want them to find their own tools so that they don't need anybody. Ultimately, that's sort of the idea of it all.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
I think we've come a long way in spirituality.
Oh, huge,
Like I
huge.
think people are so much more, I don't want to say the word tolerant because I don't think that's the right word, but they're more accepting, I think, of the diversity in the way that people reach to higher power, whatever that higher power might look like.
Oh, you know, that is so true. Like I started in 2000, I started working at Wishes in Duncan, and like the best metaphysical store ever. And that was an amazing place to launch from, because you got to be around the tools and you got to be around the spirit head people, you know. But even from when I started there, the people that would come in and was like, ooh, this store has evil things in it, or to now people flock there. And you know, and
Yes.
I've never seen so many people also open to alternative means of healing. You know, they want to understand their emotional patterns, they want to understand the energy, they want to understand their past life issues. So I would say that's the one thing that this pandemic has really opened up, is people are like, okay, I need some help here, and I'm going to find it anywhere.
I'm really glad that you said that because I think that you're bang on. I think we have an unprecedented opportunity to look at the way that we heal ourselves and how we are contained in this vessel we call our body. And so,
Absolutely.
I think, I know for myself and for many people who listen to the program or, have watched the program on Shaw, we know that I've been unwell for a few years. I have a very chronic autoimmune disease that has been, when it's asleep, it's blessed. When it's awake,
Mm-hmm.
it's soul destroying. I know that many of our people have watched the program and they've seen my face literally look like a gigantic pumpkin with two slits for eyes and,
Mm.
and just a slit across the top for a mouth. Because pharmaceuticals can do that to you. They can really
Yeah.
mess you up. And what I saw in my own recovery over the last couple of years is how many people like me who had autoimmune diseases who decided that they would look into metaphysical healing practices, that they would look into more than just meditation, but look into crystals, look into
Yeah.
stone therapy, look into, oh my gosh, I can't even believe how many different forms of therapy that there are available for people now for
Yes.
watching that are complementary to
Yeah.
Western medicine, but are really coming back from Eastern belief systems.
Yeah.
When people come to you, are they looking for healing most of the time? Are they looking for answers? What do you think that people are driving to? What are they looking for?
Honestly, I would say probably 80-90% of what I do is helping people calm their fears. So
Yeah.
they're looking for reassurance.
Yeah.
And I rarely tell people what they don't already know. Most people are like, I knew that. I just needed you to confirm it, you know? And so I feel, yeah, I mean, without a doubt, some people are freaked about their health, or they're freaked about their issues or their mental health. And so ultimately under the umbrella of wanting healing. But I feel like most most often it's just about reassurance. It's just about help me calm the fear, because that's sort of what I'm known for, is let's get rid of the fear, and then the positivity and the amazingness comes flowing out of you. So does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it makes such perfect sense to me because I think we all need to be validated, right? There's times
Yeah.
in our lives when we're much more insecure than we
Yeah.
want to admit. And so to have somebody else say, well, XYZ, yeah, XYZ, and to feel supported in some way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Once I had a woman come in, I'd never seen her before, and she'd been to countless healers. She'd been to countless readers. She'd countless doctors. She had this weird pain in her body,
Yeah.
and And so she sat down, and I was kind of nervous because I'm just like, oh, and I, without a doubt, I've had to constantly work through my own insecurities, and I got my own stuff. And so I'm constantly having to not give in to my own fears. And so I was kind of worried about, can I help this person? And so, laid the cards, and what I saw was a past life issue. And subsequently in each lifetime, we build on that if we don't clear it. And she just went, oh my God, that's all I need. Not even 15 minutes. And then she was gone. I never heard from her again. So I'm hoping that worked, but it was kind of this weird moment. I was just kind of sitting there rattled going, oh, okay, did that work? And so sometimes just knowing the story, whether or not it's actually what's going on, but knowing a story of things helps release people. And it helps confirm their own narrative, I guess.
It's interesting to me because so many people are in their own way. Does that make sense?
Oh,
we
yeah.
we get in our own way all the time. And I think that having that validation, having somebody say to you, well, let's look at something this way, or let's look at something that way. It allows, especially, I want to hone into something that you said when you were talking about, you didn't know if you were able to help this person, right? That you had your own stuff. And so I'm sure that it can be challenging to deal with projection at times, and to sort of figure out how we can stay away from transference when we are trying to help people. But yet it comes through everything that we do, that connection often is what brought the person to you in the first place.
Yes.
It's like, I see you in the insecurity. I see you as a mirror, right? I think people are very much mirrors to each other, and that's why they come together on time.
We are. And I again, part of building my practice has been working through my own projections and where the places I'm being mirrored. And the best way for me to kind of transmute that was to really move into a place of absolutely trusting spirit.
Yes.
So I have an absolute agreement with them that I will show up and I will do no harm and I will do the best, and that I will let them come through me and I'll get my own ego out of the way. And so that helped me it helps alleviate my own fears and insecurities. And then I had to learn that spirit also helps me while I'm doing readings. And like, there's been many times I've said something to somebody and gone, oh God, yeah, that's for me too. And often I'm often like, not lecturing, but maybe preaching to somebody. And then my own guides are like, oh my God, you're stupid. And I'm like, I know. So I and I have luckily really patient guides who have a good sense of humor.
No
because
kidding.
Often, again, but I feel like it keeps me humble, and I don't want my ego ever to get in the way. I just want to show up, do this work, and enjoy my own life. Really, that's where it's coming from.
Yeah, I totally understand. And I also understand that ego isn't always on purpose. Like, it's not always coming out in an intention to cause harm. Sometimes your ego is coming up to protect you. It's coming up to support, the situation that you're going through. I mean, I would imagine that there have been times in your experience where you yourself have been a little bit afraid of what you've seen or what you felt in a reading.
Oh, absolutely. And for a while, I was actually going out cleansing people's properties, and it's funny because I never even planned, I was just reading tarot cards. I never actually thought I was psychic. And then one day there was voices in my head trying to giving me this message to this woman. I was arguing with my own brain. When I learned to trust the voices in my head, it gave people exactly what they needed to hear. So I started accepting that I was psychic, that I was receiving messages. And then I never wanted to talk to dead people. I'm just like, nope, that's too much for me, until one spirit was so adamant that it scared me, and I had to learn how to do that. So then after that, I started going to people's properties and cleansing if they had a negative spirit. But apparently I suck at that, because I just bring them home and they and they just cause havoc here. So I've decided that is definitely not my gig at all. Because there was fear there, and I if there's fear, you're not going to do the best job you can. That's not for me. But I needed to learn that was not my gig.
I totally understand. I can relate to it completely. I really can. I think that the business of living, just the business of
Yeah,
living could put us into a variety of precarious situations. And, you know, but I love the fear that comes with all of those things because and don't get me wrong, I don't like being scared at all.
no,
But
no,
I like the fear because what it does is allows me to step outside of those, you know, of those obstacles that are often self-imposed, and it
yeah,
allows us to have another opportunity to bridge and to grow and to develop and to be clearer on what's happening
yeah.
around us and through us. I think we're, you know, this sounds very I like everybody says it all the time, is like I- we're all connected by energy. We're all, you know, in this together, and
Hmm.
it's an overused thing, but it's still the truest thing out there.
Yeah,
Right? We are
it
all
is.
so connected. And people like you have that opportunity to be even more connected because you have the insight to be able to see something. I think that that all of us have the potential to do, but so few of us actually take the time to learn.
And absolutely. And I just feel blessed that I was able to, I mean, this is the best job. I get to spend
Yeah,
time with people, and I get to, I always say it's like I've got to read a whole bunch of great books in a day because I get to see people's stories, and so, yeah. And not, I mean, everybody has intuition, everybody has that gut feeling. And I always say it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. So that is one thing I got to see in my practice, is I can cultivate this and I can make it stronger. And so, and I mean, not everybody is supposed to be a reader, not everybody's supposed to be an interviewer, or it just, everyone walks their path.
that's
But
right.
I just feel like, and it's interesting what you said about fear too, because there is way more what I want to call free floating fear these last 3 years. How can there not be?
Yes.
And so I think it's really highlighted the fact that and it is overused, but it's still true. We are all so connected. And
Mhm.
so, but I think we have to constantly remember there's that outside anxiety that affects our daily lives. And so, fear is necessary. We need to have fear. If there's a bus racing towards us, you should probably get out of the way.
Exactly.
So that sort of fear instinct we need. But I think that in our society and in this time with advanced technologies and with the constant connection and the constant barrage of information, through our devices, through media, we're way more inundated than we ever used to be.
Yeah. The
So,
stimulation factor is beyond anything
oh,
that we've ever had. Uh,
yeah,
and I wonder if that overstimulation is why most of us, and I don't want to speak, I can only speak for myself. I shouldn't speak
yeah,
for everybody else. And if it sounds like I am, that's not my intention. But what I've seen in my experience anyway is that people often won't listen to themselves. They won't listen to their own intuition.
oh,
And I
yeah,
think that especially now, as you said, we're being inundated with a lot of different things, but there's been a lot of stuff that's been universally happening over the last 3 years, and this
hmm,
pandemic as well
yeah,
has really woken up some areas within each and every one of us, some more than others, and some, more tangible than others, but it's allowed us to listen to our bodies so much more. It's allowed us to pay attention where we
yeah.
weren't paying attention. Right?
Well, and even just the fact that a lot of us kind of stayed away from other people. We stayed home.
Became
We
isolated,
slowed,
slowed
yeah, we became
down.
isolated. And so
Yeah.
I think that did give us that opportunity. I mean, I honestly loved the first 3 months of the shutdown because I was like, I can just be in my garden and I don't have to go out. And yet I'm glad it's moving hopefully away from that. But
Well, we all need each other. We all need to
we
be
do.
in connection. I think that that's, one of the things we have, abundantly learned is that particularly for older adults, the older adults really, we need to come together and stay
Absolutely.
together and stay connected to community. And
Yeah.
it also means that we have the ability to actually slow down. And most of
Yes.
us, I didn't have that same luxury that many people did. My day job kept me very, very integrated with community. Um,
Right.
so I didn't have that ability to slow down. I'm only now starting to slow down just a little bit because the pandemic is slowing down as well. And in some areas, or at least it was. It looks like it's gone back up again.
I know.
It's hard to gauge where we're going to go with this.
Yeah. And I mean,
yeah,
but I think you're right. It's highlighted that we can slow down,
yes,
that, you know, again, that whole human race thing became an actual thing. It was like, how fast can we go? How much work can we do? How many hours a day can I pack full of things? And it's great for a while, but I just feel like this has kind of forced us, and it's also forced us to all look at our own mental health and our own physical health too. It's you know, that highlight on health has been the thing. But so I hope, and what I tend to see in a lot of my clients is just kind of slowing down and taking a look at that, like, what is going on for me? What do I need? And I've had to do that myself. Like I was ignoring that in myself, and then spirit hit me in the head and was like, well, you're a bit slow, so better look into this.
better look
And
into
so
it. Yeah, yeah.
look into my own health and just start making some changes there. So yeah, I don't know. It's such an interesting time though. I mean, I gotta say, I've been saying this for years, but and we keep going, how can it get any crazier? And it does.
It
But
really
it's,
does. It,
yeah,
but I don't think that it's anything more than we've already experienced. I think that different stages, we just look at it differently.
we do.
We
We
really
do.
do.
I keep saying this is World War III. It's just being fought on individual energetic battlefields.
Yeah.
And it's truly, to me, it's like the battle between love and faith and fear. And so that doesn't, and I actually shouldn't even use battle, because I just feel like it's trusting more, you know, it's listening more, it's slowing down and it's feeling out what's the best way forward for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When people come to you and they're curious, what seems to be a like a commonality amongst all of the people that come to you?
Well, they're seeking, you know, they're looking for, I just think they're looking for places to believe in magic. They're looking for hope.
Yeah.
They're looking for faith, you know, and I mean, without a doubt, answers. I mean, they're people generally come because there's something going on, but I have had people just that have never had a reading. And yeah, that curiosity was, so what does this mean? And so we usually look at everything. We look at, you know, their current issues, we look at past lives and karmic themes and some future stuff. But again, it's always sort of, that's less important. It's more, here's the tools that you can use to move forward. But I would say it's usually a curiosity of understanding themselves better.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think you're absolutely right. Hey, everybody, if you have just tuned in, thank you for doing so. We're super glad that you are here. In the Zoom booth with me today is Erin Lawson. She is with Elemental Intuitive. Did I say that right?
Intuitive, yeah.
Anybody who knows me knows that I say the names wrong. It happens all the time. It's either the person's name or it's the organization's name. It's part of my charm.
Absolutely.
It really is.
It works for me.
I'm really glad. It's absolutely delightful to have you here. I'm so glad that you're with us today. If you've just tuned in as well, you're listening to CHLY on 101.7 FM. Happy to broadcast this program all the way down from Duncan to Campbell River and to the Sunshine Coast. If you are driving right now and you're enjoying this broadcast while you're driving, we are super glad you are. But maybe you'd like to pull over just for a quick moment, grab a piece of paper and a pen, because you're going to want to reach out to Erin and maybe talk about having a reading or learning more about the wonderful things that she does with Elemental Intuitive. So don't pull over yet, but just keep in mind, you're going to be looking for a piece of paper and pen. If you're at home right now, please go ahead and do the same thing while we continue our conversation. So, Erin, I love all things metaphysical. I do. I love all things metaphysical. And I recall there being a time in my life when I was very, very young, and I just knew I was connecting to source when I had shivers going through my whole body as almost a positive validation of something I'd seen or understood. What the topic was at the time, I couldn't tell you, but I remember it as a feeling. Was there a time in your life that you just sort of woke up and said, holy crap, I'm going to be doing this wonderful intuitive healing. Here I am. Or is it an involvement? Like, how did it happen for you?
You know, I feel like I had those moments when I was young, And I was the same thing, completely addicted to anything to do with metaphysics. And I swore like I thought I was a witch. And my dad was very against us having any religion. He had been raised Catholic, so he didn't want any religion in the house. He wanted us to choose ourselves. So I was always searching, but I remember having those moments of, I should know what I'm supposed to do right now. Like I was picking leaves and flowers and felt like there was something I was supposed to do, but it was a frustrating feeling. And so, and life just happened. I mean, I've been with my husband since I was 15. I was married at 19, had babies at 21. So I was sort of too busy just living, just raising the kids. But so it was around my 29th year, which is called our Saturn return, when I really felt lost. I felt like I need more. I need more than being a mom and a wife. And so that's when I just started getting books from the library on, like I said, witchcraft. And I always wanted to be psychic. I always wanted to be a counselor, but I had a grade 10 education. And again, all these kids, and I feel like that was too much beyond my grasp. But so when I started doing cards, I just thought it was something really cool. But so the intuition for me came very slowly, because I wasn't born with it. I didn't wake up seeing spirits. And I mean, I had different experiences, but I had childhood trauma. So I think you shut that down. I think that that's partly you shut that down. So for me, it was almost like having to pull open these steel doors.
Right.
And it was about insecurity, and it was about having faith and confidence in myself. So it's definitely, there's been some moments where there's been big bursts, but it was in my 30s that actually really got more powerful. And now in my 50s, it's staying powerful, So I think it was the opposite, where a lot of people who are born psychic and intuitive, that it's like full on when they're young, they're dealing with seeing spirits and having those intuitions. I was too shut down in my youth, I think, for that.
Do you think that trauma, though, was a gift for you in being able to do this work more effectively?
Absolutely. It was absolute. And I, so even with the people that did that to me, that was so much a part of my sacred contract. We have contracts when we come down here, and we will have contracts with our abusers. And I mean, it's a strange thing to say, but so I know that those things had to happen as part of my progression, and it's a weird thing to say that I asked for it. I'm not saying that, but
I hear exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that there's a difference. I think when, as you said, it's a sacred contract. Is long before you ever enter. No one chooses abuse. I'm sorry. Nobody does. Nobody chooses to go through challenge or poverty, or, nobody chooses any of those things. However, when you've experienced them, they become such a part of the fabric of who you are as a core human, that however that contract, for those that don't understand that sacred contract, however it has come through us, it has given you an insight that so many need to learn from. So many people can benefit from, even in the worst of the worst.
Well, and that's exactly it, and I see that in people who they themselves are becoming counselors or healers. We go through a trauma, hopefully heal from it, and then we can go on to help others heal, just so I would have the empathy or the understanding of what they went through because of what I went through.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you say that too. And the choice of word is perfect in that, the empathy. I feel that for people who want to counsel people or want to support someone, if they've gone through that experience, there is a deep connection that doesn't come in any other way. I can't speak to somebody who, in a way that's effective in their trauma. I can hold space for them.
Yes, exactly.
I may not be able to understand what they're going through, but someone who has walked that path can really, that's a gift. It's such a treasured gift to be able to share that space with someone and be able to walk them together through whatever it is there to learn from it.
Absolutely. And I feel like part of that too is non-judgment. I always say I'm like 1,000 shades of gray, because can sort of see the whole, I can see all sides. And sometimes that's a little bit hard because I can be like, I can sort of be wishy-washy in some ways in terms of, well, someone might be not great, but I can see why. It doesn't mean I'm learning that I don't have to let those people in necessarily, but I can understand why they are that way. So
Absolutely.
yeah, does that make sense?
It does. It makes perfect sense. I know that for those that are listening right now, this may be triggering, right? As we're having this conversation.
Yeah,
Please bear in mind that if you do and feel triggered, this is a good opportunity for you to be aware of it and just be at peace with it and be okay, knowing that there are many people that have gone through the same path as you have, and to take a breath.
yeah,
Spirituality is a individual gift. Everyone looks at it differently. And so, whether or not you follow spirituality as a witch, whether you follow it in organized religion, whether you follow it in other less organized religion, and I think that everyone, the individual, it's a decision for all. And so there should be no judgment that's connected to that.
exactly.
And I'm only prefacing that because I don't want any of our listeners to feel, or I can't tell people how they feel. I don't want the listeners to be confused. Does that make sense?
Right. Oh,
Right.
absolutely. Yeah.
It's so important that we recognize that the best part about being connected to the universe is that people do it in a million different ways.
And there are so many paths, and
So many paths.
your path, your unique path is perfect for you.
Yeah.
And that's, and that's what I would also tell people is, don't worry what anybody else is saying or thinking. You have to walk your path, and you have to walk the path that resonates with you.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter, and even in the issues right now, there's a lot of divisiveness. There's a lot of people fighting and fanatical. And I just keep saying, you have to do what feels right for you. That is my advice across the board. It's like, what resonates for you? And I just feel like, authenticity, listen to yourself, listen to your heart, because you'll know best. And I tell people that too. I mean, even though they're coming to see me and to get my intuition, I always say, if I'm saying something that doesn't resonate with you, for God's sakes, don't listen. Like, trust your own intuition. That's the whole point of this exercise, is help me help you with your own intuition.
I really love the idea of resonating as an individual, right? I think that people, people are often surprised by what they resonate with. Do you know what I mean? Like, so they get aha moments all the time from something that they never thought that they would be, feeling the connection to. But I think that everybody just needs to be curious.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Like, why do I feel this way? If I'm feeling triggered, what is it that's triggering me? If I'm feeling angst or anxious, why? What's triggering me? And so I think that the help of someone like yourself is really a great benefit, because you can ask those questions.
Yes.
And maybe get a little bit of guidance to why that feels the way it does, right? Without being, as you said, no judgment, just
exactly
there.
And I want to go back to a little bit what you said about what we were talking about could be triggering for people.
Yeah.
And because the one thing that I find is, so many people that come in with trauma, what also happens is there's so much shame and guilt wrapped around that trauma. And that's part of the culture, and it's part of that.
Yeah.
Keep victimizing the victim. So I always ask people to try to, I have this special trick called the boot trick, and everyone that comes for readings knows about the boot trick, and it's where we neutralize the fear. But so things like shame and guilt, I always say that they are fear's henchmen. So fear will use whatever it can to make us triggered. And so shame and guilt is often put on us, and it's rarely actually anything we've actually done. Absolutely. And yet it's used to keep us in that place. So I always ask people to kind of try not to go into shame and guilt, try to neutralize those things.
Yeah. I just want to honor that space. I think that that's so important that you've said what you've said. I think that the value in that is, sometimes the shame is cultural, sometimes it's familial, sometimes it's, there's just so many levels of it
There
that
is.
it can experience it. And the important part is that we just need to know that it's not our stuff. Sometimes this
No,
stuff is somebody else's stuff that's been unfortunately imposed upon us. And right from the word witch, right? There's
exactly.
an entire history
Oh,
about that connotation.
there really is. And, and I've told the story before to other people, but I once had a prayer circle come and be performed in front of our house because they were so freaked out about who I was and what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it was one of those sort of watershed moments of feeling so afraid. Like, and it was, so innocuous in some ways, but my kids were the one that were like, Mom, look, and these women out in front of the house doing this prayer circle thing. And they were fundamental Christians. And again, if your belief system supports you and nurtures you, then I'm all for that. But it was kind of freaky to have these people out there, and not on my property, but just outside of it. And I could feel they were so afraid of me,
Yeah.
or afraid for me. I don't know, but I was so triggered. And I kind of thought, if they pull out a burning cross, I'm screwed like this. But they didn't. And it was so I didn't go out there, I didn't engage. And I worked the next few days on feeling so triggered and feeling so judged, because that's what it did. It made me feel like, oh my God, they think I'm evil. And being so insecure and being so afraid of being judged, it almost made me want to change my path. But then I'm like, no, that doesn't resonate. That's not what I'm supposed to do. So I didn't engage. And eventually those people moved, but it was a really big test, because I felt that it was almost like being punched in the stomach.
Yeah.
With someone's very harsh judgments. And so it was a very good test of not reacting and not changing my path.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that people need to understand their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
When they impose their values onto others with a desire that they think they're helping them, they're actually causing more fear, more harm than really. People sometimes best intentions can be their worst, the worst thing that they could do.
Yeah.
And I personally struggle with those kinds of things, because I don't like, I feel that I'm a very spiritual woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it that way. I'm a woman of
faith.
Can
feel that.
You can feel it. I'm a proud woman of faith. But I also, don't believe that my way of thinking is the one and only way. I think that the premise behind good faith, and I don't want to say religion, because I think there's a difference between religion, faith, and spirituality. I think they're all interconnected, certainly,
sure.
but they're different in the way that they believe. Faith for me means I don't really know what the heck is going on, but I'm in belief that something that is in my highest good.
Absolutely.
So even when I'm feeling really afraid of something that's going on, like COVID, a lot of people were really, really scared of COVID.
Of course.
I decided that I would go get my cards read, because, hey, why not, right? So I went to go and see someone who, by the way, was absolutely fabulous in so many ways. And she said, well, I just want you to know that you're not going to get COVID. So you may go through a lot of different experiences, but you're going to be one of those people that just isn't going to get COVID. And I thought, well, that's really reassuring.
Yeah.
And then I thought to myself, but how do any of us really know what the future will hold? I don't want to get lost in the fear of catching COVID either.
No,
so
exactly.
Don't misunderstand. But it's like, okay, so now my faith is that I've had opportunities in my life where it's been deja vu. And I've seen myself in a job that happened in the future many times. Actually,
Right.
just about every job I've ever had, I've seen myself doing 3 years before I am ever even aware of it, right?
How cool is that?
So I think to myself, exactly, what's up with that? So it brings me back to, well, we can't read the future, but wait a minute, what the heck is deja vu? So I guess the point of my conversation is that faith is that belief in the I don't know, But I'm
Yes.
going to believe that whatever it is that's up there or around or as a universal energy, whatever that looks like, is for my highest good.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
And so, and for me, that means that I participate in church every week. It's what I do. It's important in my life. It gives me comfort and joy and makes me feel connected to the people that I'm around. And so it's important for me to do that. But just
Absolutely.
because I go to church doesn't mean I don't believe in having my cards read or
No,
looking
exactly.
at Buddhist practices or looking at there's actually a name for witchcraft, for one segment of witchcraft.
Wicca.
Wicca. Thank you very much. That's what I was looking for. So, and I'm an older person as well. I'm in my late 50s, and I know for myself that in order to be able to speak of any of these other faiths, you have to explore them. And
Yeah.
it's always been my opinion that, if you want to talk about Buddhism, well, you should probably go follow the path for a while and see whether or not it resonates with you. If you want
Exactly.
if you want to do Wicca, then you should probably follow Wicca for a while and see how it resonates with you. If you want to be a fundamental Christian, by all means, find a way, like seek out all the churches and then figure out for yourself
Yeah.
what's right for you.
And that's sort of what I did in my dad restricting religion in our youth. It actually sent me on a path, like we got Bibles in grade 4. I read that Bible every night, and we sent our kids to a Catholic school here, and I loved that. It's funny because there was the odd sort of rigid person,
Sure.
but most of the people were so respectful. They loved their belief system and they respected that I had my own, and yet I could walk in those doors and feel accepted there.
Exactly.
And I loved that. And one of the teachers there had said, because our kids weren't baptized, and had said that if you're not baptized, you're going to hell. And so there were some other kids that weren't baptized that were really freaked out by that. But when our daughter came home and she was in grade 2, and I said, well, how did that make you feel? She's like, well, I know it's not true. I'm not going to hell. Like, because we talked about all these different systems, and I don't want my kids to follow my system. They have to find their own belief system. So that was sort of, again, everyone has a different path, and it's still, you're still connected. You're still a divine being having a human experience, whatever your belief system is. That's how it works, as far as I think. So
I'm with you. I remember that same conversation. I was walking down Kitts Beach in downtown Vancouver, and my little boy was, I think Dakota was maybe 2, maybe 3 years old. And there was a person of faith, of their own faith, with their little pamphlets. And they looked at my little boy and they said, your son's going to go to hell. I looked at him and I wanted to deck him. And I thought, my son will never go to hell, darling.
No.
Never. There's never, right? It's like taking an animal's paw and putting it in a fire. Like,
yeah,
that's not going to happen, right?
no.
And whether or not there are negative influences and that kind of belief system out there, for sure. I mean, I'm sure that there's lots of things that are not good in the spiritual realm. And I choose not to believe that any of those things are going to, that's probably one of the things that upsets me the most about fundamentalists of any kind, is that it's not an all or nothing world.
No. And there are fundamentalists in every belief system. And I mean, there was a woman who came to town about 15 years ago, and she was like a hereditary witch from, I don't know, from England somewhere. And her family had been witches for 300 years. And there was a whole group of us that were like, oh my God, we get it right from the source. But it was very fundamental and it was very rigid. And we had to wear certain things and be certain ways. And instantly my rebel inside of me was like, no, I don't think so. Like, that's not happening.
No,
that's why, like, I've been really, because Wicca is a religion. It's a what's it, an organized religion, I forget what it's called, but, and again, I think there's still so many broad, just like there is in Christianity and in every other religion, there's so many broad aspects of it. And so again, I feel like one of the witches' creeds is do as you will and harm none. So that's really what I believe in. It's like, do what you can, but don't hurt anybody, be kind. That's really the basis of it. So
I'm with you. You're preaching to my choir, sister.
There you go.
Be kind.
Yeah.
That's to me what it all is be kind, whatever
Yeah.
that might look like. I'm gonna move our conversation away from
Okay.
this for just a moment, and I'm gonna move into more of the fundamentals of what it is that you are doing when you're working with people. So is there is it the Rider Wild deck that you like to use? Is there a certain, do you use different kinds of decks? Like in the process of doing it, what comes for you?
I only use the Spiral Tarot, it's called.
Okay.
And so, like, I started with the Rider Waite years ago, but the Spiral Tarot is the one, and I think it's by Kay Stevenson, but it's the one I've been using for about 15 years. And it's based on the Rider Waite, but the art just resonates. And the symbology helps me. It just sort of, it tells a story without it being hard work. And so I really only use those cards. And that's it. They come in my office and we pull the cards, and I don't follow, like, I sort of have a spread I use, but it's really common for me to almost use every card in the deck over a course of an hour reading. Absolutely. Because people ask questions, and so I just keep pulling the cards, and it's just sort of this constant, like, I constantly shuffle and constantly move them around, and that's kind of how I do it.
And the good news is that I think that the cards come. I love cards, and I have many different decks. I don't read people's cards. I have several decks of cards that I enjoy, and I use them for myself. And where I use them is when I'm stuck in a quandary. When you've got to make a decision, and that neither two answers are going to be the best one, and you just need some validation of sorts. That's what I use the cards for. So I, like you, I don't have, there isn't anything in particular that I do. But what I know for sure is that whenever I have pulled those cards, there's